What do you think is the single biggest thing holding back human progress? When every comment is religion and conservatives, it's obvious how hard Reddit mods work to keep Reddit a liberal-only forum. What's holding back human progress is censorship and tribalism. Amongst smaller issues that individual people deal with on their own, they are usually solved by some sort of compromise. When we only allow voices we want to hear because they align with what we have decided is truth, and silence all opposing voices, there will never be compromises, there will never be solutions, there will only be conflict, which leads to violence. You are, and by you, I mean all of us. Because if you are bitter, if you put people down, if you work at a place where you have to swallow your morals to function, then you are contributing to the problem. While there will be billionaires and influencers, in the end, we outnumber them 1,000 to 1. So if the rest of the 999 would get off their asses and support each other and stop tearing each other down, then the 1 in 1,000s will have to take notice. Because only unhappy people put up with the kind of bullshit we are putting up with. Social media emo hasn't been good in the long run, it's bought out too many idiots that I think it's gonna hold back future progression. I am a Muslim, I also believe, not religion entirely, the very old backwards cultures people still believe in, like they are still following traits from 1,000 years ago, kinda pointless in the modern world we live in, especially with the amount of people and population there is now. People pick and choose what they want to believe, follow only when it suits them, and it pisses me off. People using unrealistic fears about technology based on fictional media to justify halting the progress of technology. Or in terms of things like AI, using fears of what someone might use as a technology for as a reason to suppress the technology as a whole. For example, people claiming that we should ban AI because it might make scamming people a little bit easier, and instead of prosecuting the people who actually use AI like that, they have decided that we should just ban the technology altogether. Progress is a paradox for humanity. You take a step forward and then you find yourself 2 steps backward. It's like running on a treadmill and expecting to travel in leaps and bounds. You're tricking your animal mind into feeling like you're going somewhere even though you are aware you are not. Or, in other words, you are always responding the same way to the same thing and expecting things to unfold differently to a drastic degree. Money is a universal treasure. No matter where you are, it can get you anything. It's ultimately a social construct. And now, it's so developed that, it'd be hard to implement it. The fundamental idea of a company is to create a team, in which they work together to create a solution to a problem. This idea is built on the basis of bettering society, but it can be easy to oversee that for solely making money. As an American, I strongly feel specifically within that society, some significant barriers exist. Firstly, our government roles should prioritize serving the public rather than pursuing profits. Moreover, our economy's extreme laissez-faire nature allows influential corporations like Coca-Cola and Walmart to impact and even overturn a woman's right to make choices regarding her own body, which is a concerning issue. Most people live on a purely subconscious level, they care only about keeping their emotional state happy and the emotional state of others around them. To enact change, we have to push past that base level of intuitive thought and apply our intelligence into the physical world. That is what science is, that is what engineering is, but only a subset of people seem capable of thinking in this way. Politicians, billionaires. Whatever agreement we had then with these people, I think the world would just like to exclude them and move on. Almost feels like they know that it's a privacy issue. We could be tackling so much good if everything wasn't so fixated on money. Another way? Off goes we wouldn't see any other way, because from day of birth it's on. That's all we taught and all we know. Human nature. We are not capable of large-scale socialism, and any attempt at capitalism leads to inequality. Also, some people are just evil or assholes and don't care about others. If we all work together, we could accomplish anything, but we will literally never been able to do that. So we have to incentivize it and hope we move to the next level without destroying ourselves. Our intelligence level. We had a huge burst of innovation this past century, but the more progress we make, the harder it becomes to move further, because as the problems keep getting harder, there are fewer and fewer people with enough intelligence to work on them. Organic intelligence evolves very slowly, but hopefully AI will help us take the next steps. Not secularism, because separation of church and state is a good foundation for a free society. However, people need to believe in something greater than themselves. Inherently makes a better person by having a moral base. Atheism and any entity that had evil fibers within the fibers of its framework is a disservice to human civilization. Governments and school systems, why are we learning about history and nothing that advances the human race? The system trains for slaves and not the advancement of technology, farming, science. And what are they teaching kids? History, pronouns, team sportsmanship, math that ultimately goes nowhere, socialism and capitalism. Religion, stop focusing on imaginative stories and beings and what happens when you die, and focus on what and who is here, right now in front of you while you're alive, and you will see direct change in your world, your life. The only thing that brings change are those hands that are with you every day. Diminishing attention span. Nobody really talks about this, but ready availability of quick-bite information fosters a dangerous information culture based wholly around incomplete and honestly clickbaity knowledge more than actual thinking, and this has more and more apparent consequences. I forgive the comedian, but the bit is essentially scientists have to move as slow as the dumbest people in our society. Meaning things like stem cell research, cancer treatments, etc. would be a lot further along if it weren't for, certain politicians and their constituents' ignorant liberal ideology and science. The deranged stew that these two ingredients make, when combined by educational dogma, has created the newest and latest state-funded religious cult. It stymies innovation at every level, and creates toxic echo chambers for the mediocre. Ironically, greed. I say ironically, because human greed is what should be pushing us to innovate and progress. However, in the current world, the people who have the most are sabotaging the people who have the desire to improve, all because their greed knows no bounds. Our DNA is really holding us back, but I'd say we've vastly exceeded our potential in many areas. The thing is, we are animals, we are driven by our DNA to be selfish, violent, power-hungry and greedy, since those animals have a higher chance to survive and reproduce. Money. We created the thing that's set to divide us. We can't solve our problems because we can afford it. As a species, we can't solve the massive issues with the world because it's too expensive to do, so we would rather let the human race fail because of money. Religion and politics. Religion can't be reasoned with because it's seen as the ultimate truth. People will legislate, hate, and discriminate based on this truth. We shouldn't be forced to live in a society based on other people's truths without any evidence. Early years education. I think we aren't raising enough nice humans. Maybe a little bit more focus on teaching things like empathy, understanding and tolerance right out of the gate would stem the flood of adults who seem to be completely lacking those skills. Militarism. The claim that military technology is the driver of human ingenuity is fallacious. It's simply a gobbler of money, and an equal sum devoted to developing tech to make human lives better would see equal or better results. Social media and the technological boom we're going through in this decade. Too much all at once, no real advancement. We're becoming highly dependent on technology that we're going to stop ourselves from the need for evolution. Imagine if every country was on the same page working together as one Earth. The advances in medicine and space travel we could make without putting time and energy into war and tools of destruction. It's definitely greed in the forms of patents, sabotage. There are a lot of emerging technologies constantly being blocked by corrupt politicians or competitors. The focus is usually profits. For a real controversial answer, ethics. I personally think they're a good thing, but you can't deny that arbitrarily making a right way and a wrong way of doing things will slow you down. The fear of being attacked by the rivals. Imagine all the money countries pour into buying military weapons and defense systems. That money could solve most of the problems we humans face. The ease of machines, and instead of making us more productive, makes us more lazy and dependent. Progress should be for human evolution and skills, not to make us lazy and useless. No one thing pushes harder against progress than religious folk. They act against scientific progress, the rights of women, and oddly enough, many are against social programs. People caring too much about who takes the credit. A lot of real progress are substituted for half measures because people want to take instant credit for it. Everyone's saying capitalism and greed etc. Just say personal interest. People don't act in the best interest of humanity, but themselves in their closed circle. Actually, how do you define progress? Science, medicine, social, economic, political. Honestly, you probably get different answers from different perspectives. Lack of critical thinking skills. Everything else, religion, conservatism, greed, etc., is all caused by idiots being unable to think critically. Greedy rich sociopaths, who have been making things much worse for everyone else since the invention of money and probably before then, as well. Nature of human being to fight. We have gone to Moon Mars, but we have not learned to walk like good humans, having compassion and brotherhood. Stupid people have too much power. They can vote, they can buy guns, they can have kids, they can even run for president, for fuck's sake. Greed. Specifically, the cultural normalization that accumulation of wealth is allowed to be more important than the common good. The lack of an understanding that we are better as a species when we work together than when we are working against each other. Health and safety. The airplane could never be invented with the safety laws of today. Bureaucracy is an innovation killer. If the dark age of humanity during the Middle Ages taught us anything, is that religion truly is the opium of the people. Two things: greed, and ancient belief systems that society has no further need of, despite some people thinking it does. Misogyny. Oppressing the possibly smarter half of the entire species seems so wasteful and detrimental to our progress. The linear and accumulative notion of progress. It's like AFT religious dogma, a disease of thinking liberalism. The government, they have been doing it since the 70s. Why do you think with each generation, we're getting dumber? This thread is filled with the most self-righteous morons I've ever seen. Oh wait, that's just Reddit in general. Lack of unity. We probably won't unite as a species until we find something extraterrestrial to wage war on. Ethics. The most leaps we've done as a species was during war times, especially with human experimentation. Lust for power among the ruling class, at the expense of the people they're supposed to be helping. Greed. If we all worked together as opposed to against one another, we would be so much better off. Religion. But I'd argue every piece of suffering mankind deals with can be traced back to church. Human stupidity. Especially the breathtaking stupidity of that subspecies we call politicians.